just start the recording there, and I will just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Okay.
All right. So,
¿Qué onda?
two things I am noticing here on the initial engagement, right? So firstly, we take the longer route around when coming through here on this left side because we're invisible. Like we could just honestly just sneak up right behind them. Wouldn't take very much it honestly would just be faster to get to them and probably allow us to do more, whereas this just takes us an extra couple of seconds to get around.
¿Qué
Now,
onda?
additionally, okay, never mind. That hack is actually fine because he didn't take damage until after we hacked him, so that's that one's fine. I thought that he was already low. If he was already low, then probably just shooting at him first would be much better option there.
Okay.
Okay, very nice kill.
Ay, pobrecito. Taking the objective.
Okay, nice hack.
Would be appreciated.
All right, so in that situation, we just ended up dying, and that's the mistake there. So here we were fine on all the damage, we're fine on the hacks, but then we just weren't paying attention to our health bar, which is a very important thing here. We have a TP out that we could have taken very easily, which would have saved our lives. But instead we just didn't, right? And then that's a big issue. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to our health bar, right? And then when we're low, that we're backing up and getting out. Whereas here we didn't really do that. We just kind of stayed in. Additionally, we're maybe playing a little bit aggressive with our positioning, possibly because notice here we rewind a second here. We would kind of step ahead of our tanks a little when we don't necessarily need to be doing that. So, like for example, we could just be stepping behind our diva, having diva body block and tank for us. So, couple things there. Two big ones are stick behind your tanks, let them body block for you. But then also, when you see that you're low in health, make sure that we're actually translocating out, and then that saves us from dying and means that we get a lot more value.
Translocating.
So that's first thing we're noticing.
Get into position.
Hey there.
Not yet.
Did we get decloaked? Or did we...
Hey there.
Oh yeah, we got shot by the soldier, it looks like.
Not yet. The power of destruction. Check this out.
Yeah, nice hack.
Administered.
Beacon in place. Here I am.
Nice hack.
Ay, pobrecito.
Take your medicine. I need to recharge.
Okay, nice cleanup kill. So far, not looking too shabby besides that first death.
EMP charged. Gene.
Alright.
Mismo. Apagando las luces.
Okay, so we're EMPing, we're catching two people. So in this situation, EMP honestly doesn't seem to be doing a ton when we could just in this situation be just flat. Like so look here, right? Reinhardt is 1 HP, Genji's dead. And then the only other person that we're EMPing is one single Brig who pops forwards. So this, or sorry, Moira who pops forwards. So this EMP is actually largely wasted because it only gets one single person, and by the time we use it, they're already, we're actually already winning this fight. So we actually don't need EMP here. So that's just a big wasted ultimate. So that maybe gets into a little bit of how do you tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight, and that's very important information to know. How do you tell whether or not you won or lost a fight? Mainly gets into watching kill feed, right? Kill feed's the top right corner of your screen. When you are up 1 to 2, or up or down, sorry, 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage. You play more aggressive or more passive in those instances. When you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that is where it's a won or lost fight, right? So right now where it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus a 1, 2, 3, that is a one fight, right? So in this situation, we probably don't need to be using ultimates, right? You don't need to use ultimates in won or lost fights. We're already using coalescence, and then we also have EMP if we need it here. And then the other things to keep in mind are that when we win, we just play really aggressive, and then when we lose a fight, we need to look to get out or let them kill us if we can't get out so that we can regroup. So here we just want to make sure we're paying attention and being aware of our surroundings, because we end up EMPing when the two people we were trying to EMP are dying right in front of our eyes, and EMP wasn't even really necessary when we could have, even if we even needed EMP, we could have just hacked instead, right? If it's just one person or two people we're trying to go for, typically a two-person EMP is not a fantastic EMP to go for.
Ahorita regreso.
Oh.
Translocating.
I sighted the enemy.
¿Qué tal? Be right back.
Nice hack. Alright, so we end up getting bashed there. And then shredded. Alright, so far I'm seeing a little bit of a common thread, so we'll keep that in mind. So here we end up dying. Right now I'm noticing that two things that are causing us to lose a lot of value are how many times that we're forced to translocate unnecessarily, and then also just deaths are unnecessarily and kind of preventable deaths are also causing us to lose out on time that we could be doing other things. So here in this situation, right, this is a preventable death, largely because all we need to do to prevent it is just know that there's a brig running up on us, which would allow us to look at her, shoot at her, look to just translocate backwards, and we're all fine and dandy. So the main way here that we can actually know that the brig is approaching is just from our audio awareness, which is very important to be aware of, because if we're not paying attention to our audio awareness, then brig just walks up on us for free and we die. So in this situation, right, just going through a couple audio settings just to make sure that we're all set on these. Very highly recommend putting up your normal volume if needed. Turn off or down your music volume, as a lot of times that just clutters with audio. Another thing I'd check to see is, does your headset in the software, does it have surround sound enabled or as an option? If it does not have it as an option, then go to in-game and turn on Dolby Atmos for headphones, as that's the in-game equivalent to surround sound. So then besides that, you could have all those settings be decently bad, and if you still are paying attention to your audio awareness, right, then your audio awareness is going to be better, right? You're going to be able to listen and hear people, right? So that means that you're actually listening for footsteps and gunshots and abilities and ultimates, right? So make sure that we are doing that so that we're not having breaks sneak up on us and then dying because we get bashed, and then that saves us and keeps us alive for that
So in
fight.
the in-game voice, you
Mhm.
have it at 100%, and you turn off the music, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you can have some master volume, right? Right now I have that low because I like to hear myself talk when I'm coaching, but typically when I playing I have this up to like 60. But that's just my headset range. You have to find what works for you, because you don't want to go too loud, because that can mess up your ears, right, in the long run medically.
Okay.
But you don't want to have it too quiet, right? Because then you can't hear things going on. So I'm just
Okay.
saying, make sure that your master volume is high enough for you. That's not an exact number, because your headset is also going to have an impact on that.
Okay.
All right, so first round went pretty well.
Ready for battle.
Oh, did I turn on my volume? Yeah, I turned up to 60. Whoopsie. All right, so
So
mhm.
you said Dolby something.
Yeah, so if you do not have surround sound enabled on your headset and it is not an option on your headset, then go in game to sound settings and turn on Dolby Atmos for headset. It's this thing.
How do you check if surround sound is?
What headset do you have? Do you have a
I have
brand name?
Sony, but it's a cheap
Sony?
one.
Yeah. Do you have like Sony software? So like, could you go in and edit settings at all on your headset somewhere on your computer?
I don't have any software.
Yes.
No.
Okay. So if you do not have software installed, then you can check. Is there software for this headset? If there is, like,
Okay.
it'll give you like an application to download. So, for example, like if you've ever had a Razer product, it'd be like Razer Synapse, right? Where you can go to Razer Synapse and then edit like your mouse sensitivity and coloring and stuff like that, right? So it's the same concept. So there should be I mean, not all headsets have it, but there could be settings and software for your headset, in which case surround sound might be an option. If that
Mhm.
is not an option, like you look it up and there's no software for your headset, then that's fine. Just you go in and turn it on in game.
Okay.
So then here we can go ahead and start on with this next one. First round went pretty well. It was a 100-0. Not many big problems there.
Teleportation portal opens. We move swiftly.
Okay. Just small thing. Recommend layering them across this top layer, just because that's going to be harder for them to break it than these ones on the bottom. Because all they have to do for the bottom ones are just like come through and like peek for half a second, shoot at it, and they're out. For the top ones, they have to like awkwardly like look up and turn, right, to shoot at those, right. So it's just
Mhm.
harder to get to and shoot at. So just recommend that rather than just placing down that middle center spire.
You are unworthy of the true reality. I am taking the objective. All is going according to plan.
All right, maybe noticing something in a second here. Um,
Teleportation portal open.
Nano boost administered.
all right, yep. So we're definitely noticing something. So we're gonna back out there, come over to the main menu. So, or the practice range. So Symmetra. Let's go over Symmetra a little bit. Symmetra
A
has
few
a
enemies
primary
now
fire and a
difficult to
secondary
solve.
fire. The reason why it is
Oh, I
called.
know.
Go ahead. What do you say?
You are going to say I should be playing with my tank to burn down the range shield too.
I'm saying that you should be within the right now. Your positioning is very far outside of range because you should be playing as a close range character. Symmetra is a close range character because her left click, her main primary fires is close ranged, and her right click is very inconsistent. Right, it's a very difficult way to secure kills. Now, it's not to say that you should never be
Mhm.
right clicking. Right clicking is definitely has its value, but right click is primarily used when you cannot be within left click distance. So let's say you're running up into a fight, you're right click spamming, right? Or the enemy team is just a mile away from you, you're right click spamming to get damage in there to do things. Or let's say that you're just in a duel and you have time where you're around the corner, charge up a right click. But your preferred method of damage is going to be left click because you can much more accurately melt down one individual person much more consistently at a very high rate of fire, much faster than you can with a right click. And you can also melt down, like you said, shields and tanks. So therefore, you should be playing much closer, and your left click range is, let's see, maybe I should do it over here. That'd be
It's 10 meters.
We move swiftly.
yeah. Is it? Yeah. So no, it's actually not 10 meters.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's 10 meters right there. So
I see.
this looks like it is 13 meters, 12 meters? No, 13 meters.
Okay.
Right? So that's keep that in mind. Your preferred range is 13 meters because that's your left
Okay.
click range. Look to play inside that whenever possible. And then if you cannot, that's of course fine. You can right click, but right now you are intentionally putting yourself outside of that left click range. Like we were, our tanks were up there fighting on two separate occasions, right? Like in between that fight and then when the fight begins, our tanks were up there a lot closer when we could have just been standing behind them left clicking. Instead, we kind of intentionally put ourselves further back, going off to that right side of the map, and then also backing off to the far side of point, right? So
Mhm.
that's just going to greatly hinder the value that we can be getting on
Now
Symmetra.
arriving at Lijiang, ready for battle.
So here, right, you can notice like where our tanks are in comparison to where we are. We're just kind of, this is allowing us to take kind of unnecessary damage while us not being able to deal back any like a sufficient amount. And then we also here when we could be probably up like somewhere around hugging somewhere around here where we're like behind a Reinhardt, or even like over here would be good, right? Where we can beam down there Reinhardt, get our charge up very, very high on the beam, right? Instead we kind of back up to this far side of point, which just means that we're not going to be able to have as much of an impact as we could. Okay. Fully charge those orbs, you're going to do a lot more burst damage. It's going to be a lot more bang for your buck when you're doing those big orbs. Those tiny little orbs aren't going to really do very much. It's just you tickling people at that point if you're firing off those tiny little ones. Whereas a big orb does 120 damage, so that opens up for a lot more potential for kill to burst someone's health down, right? And burst damage is very important in this game because when you, for example, let's look at their soldier, right? Their soldier here, who is 130, right? Putting him down to 10 HP, it basically secures the kill on him. Versus if you just hit him with a tiny little dabble, then he goes down 20 HP. Well, that's not really very valuable. It's not going to be doing very much for us. So I highly recommend just fully charging it. There's a way to. Are you? There's a way if like for beginners, so we're at 5 minutes. Sorry, I don't want to keep going in and out here, but there's a way where you can very easily see this as a beginner, because you can set your crosshair to show you, right? So
Oh, I already have that.
yeah, you already have that, right? Nice, nice. So I wasn't actually sure if that was a default feature as or not, or if you changed it, because like it's been so long since I've had default crosshair settings.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower. Ready
All right,
for
so
Actually, I
good.
think I do at least.
Yeah, so if you don't, then that just a handy way to be able to do that. So here, yep, so that's a pretty good ult. All right, and then notice that we're on fire and we actually got value when we're actually left clicking. that's where we got value that fight.
That is for your own good.
All right. So in this situation, I think we are going to review. One moment. Thinking. So firstly, going to note that we didn't have any turrets set up during that fight. Oh no, we didn't. We did. Okay, looks like Tyre broke them actually. Possibly replacing those turrets when we see that they're all coming left side, right? So rather than having them just sitting main doing nothing, we could be replacing them along this left wall if we see that they're all coming left side. So that's something to be aware of, making sure our turrets are actually in the fight doing things. Now additionally, I would probably have teleporter up doing things or make sure we're actually using our abilities. So here we could, if we wanted to have a teleporter just leading this way, give you different like angle, give you an escape option. This could, for example, help you survive the tire. To survive the tire here, all we need to do is just plop down a TP away right at the last second when tire's about to explode. That could also even get your teammates away from the tire too, if they needed to, right? TP could lead to a high ground there. TP could do just something with it. We could put it in the window here and get above them. Right? A bunch of different options with it that we just want to be considering so that it's actually doing things and not just sitting on cooldown in our inventory. Besides that, believe we might go over. I want to see a better example of it before we review something in particular I'm thinking about. Okay. Look this way, place down a TP. Your team can TP out of a grav. So if we place teleporter down right now, this gets 4 people out of the grav and probably could save all of our lives. So very underutilizing TP as of the current moment. Very much would recommend place it much more often, because that in this situation could save you guys the fight. Or even potentially, like if we wanted to here, going back a couple seconds, we could even just TP up to the window above them, right? And just plop a TP like straight up there, and then our team could just TP straight to point and then cap from behind them, right? Set up behind them. So that there in that situation definitely could have saved that fight.
Ward is in place. Form up. This will heal. Yahi Parambasta Victahe.
Alright, so going back a second or two, wall here possibly misplaced a little poorly. If we just curve this a little bit more to the right, it probably would have been better, right? Because notice where the majority of the fight is happening is like right here. Putting it on this left side doesn't actually stop them from shooting at you, right? So like just notice that this doesn't really stop them at all, right? And it's not like our team's gonna want to just like wrap around this left side and shoot at them from here, right? So overall, you're not really gonna be able to utilize this wall too well while shooting at the enemy team. Whereas if we were to more sharply cut this to the right side, well, now your team can very easily just sit behind that and shoot at them when they can't really shoot back at you guys, right? So just the angling there probably could have been a lot better for angling it more so to the right. So make sure you're paying attention to like kind of what will this cut off, what will this not cut off. Additionally, we still have the option to go and TP to point. If you wanted to, you could even individually TP to point, right? If they're all distracted, we could go to point and then just plop up TPs, and then maybe if we wanted to like just run to the far backup point, what that does is that baits them the point. It makes them all back up, confuses them, it distracts them, it makes it so that they have to kind of panic run to point, which splits their attention. So that's an option here if we want to go for it. And then that's honestly unfortunate. You don't have much control over a shatter.
And everyone. Beacon in place. Gotcha.
Good target to pick out with the Reinhardt. Now let's look at this one more time.
Gotcha.
Alright, I'm trying to think if the reason why we die here is because we stand still or not. Honestly, that just seemed... So maybe could be moving around slightly more, like doing some more AD strafing, because we did seem to kind of stop for half a second and stand a little bit still, which allows him to shoot us easier. Besides that, it didn't appear as though... Like, it appears as though he just reacted really fast there.
Ahorita regreso.
Okay. Make sure we're not just kind of walking in front of Orion here, right? He's there to tank damage for you, and we just step in front of him, and then we take a bunch of damage and then immediately have to back out as a result. So there's no reason for you to be stepping in front of that Reinhardt when you could just be sitting behind him and shooting at them for free. Additionally, we kind of just sit here in the front line when you'd probably be better off running behind them again. Alright, so we have to go and touch point. 1 second left. Yeah, okay. That's round. So there, the main things on Symmetra were that we weren't really utilizing TP very well, and then we weren't utilizing our left click and right click appropriately in that in that game. Okay, let's see how we approach Sombra here.
Be right back. Gotcha.
Okay, here we see bubble, and then we decloak while we see bubble. So if our goal is to hack Reinhardt, might want to give it a second before we decloak, because decloaking will give them that audio cue, which we don't want to be giving them that audio cue if we can't even hack Reinhardt anyways. So here we kind of decloak too early when we, and then notice that lets Reinhardt, he actually looks over and shields at us. Because we were trying to hack him. So that definitely could have prevented us from hacking him. So just watch for that bubble. Besides that, not a big deal. I like that we keep trying to hack Reinhardt, though. I think we're actually gonna need to discuss. Why don't we talk real quick? I don't think that it's a super major problem from what I've seen so far, but I have seen a little bit of this. So why don't we talk over target priority real quick? So target priority is basically what do you want to be shooting at, right? Who's the targets you want to be shooting at, and when, and what not. Now, in general, you want to be shooting at the easiest targets to kill. That's typically your primary targets, and in general, tanks are not that. Tanks are the most difficult targets in the game to kill. They have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters, they have shields, they have armor, they have tanking abilities. They're real difficult to kill. So, that's not to say that we never kill them, right? We can shoot at them when they're low, when they're out of position, when they're the only thing we can shoot at, right? When we don't have any other option. And then the other differentiating factor I would also say is if we're coming in with the intention of getting spam damage in, because so like getting ult charge in, right? That's where we can shoot at tanks, because shooting at tanks in that situation would be the easiest way to generate ult charge, which we'll get to in a moment here. I'm just throwing that out as another option. In general, don't want to be shooting at tanks. So when we come in here and we have the option to, hack Reinhardt, and then we can be shooting at, let's see, right? We hack Reinhardt, and we can be shooting at the Lucio, the Moira. We could peek up a second here, peek out a little bit, and shoot at the Junkrat, right? So we have 3 other much easier targets to kill the Reinhardt as available options to shoot at, and we end up shooting at the Reinhardt. Well, then that means that we end up actually not doing very much damage to him, and then we don't really accomplish very much, and then ultimately all of that just gets wasted time, right? So definitely recommend shooting at other squishier targets. Now, another thing that I didn't mention that we could be discussing is whenever you're going in, you have kind of different engages as Sombra. You have an engagement looking for a hack, you have an engagement looking for damage, you have or kills, right? And you also have an engagement where you're looking just for ult charge, right? You have different ways that you can come in and look to engage as Sombra, and that's going to depend on the situation, right? In this situation, engaging for ult charge is nonsensical. You are nowhere close to your ultimate, so trying to get to your ultimate to begin with here is not going to be helpful for winning this fight, right? If you're coming in and your only intent is to get ult charge, right? Now, let's say that you're very close to your ultimate, like you're 80, 90% to your ult. Well, now you intentionally going for your ultimate is much more valuable because you want to get your ult online to use it, right? Or let's say, for example, it's in between a fight, right? And you're just going in, you're running into their team, trying to get some ult charge in between the fight, right? You're probably not going to secure a kill, and the securing a kill isn't important because it's in between a fight, but getting your ultimate charge up definitely is important, right? But
Okay.
in the but there's also other ways to approach, right? You can be coming in looking for a kill. You could be coming in and looking for specifically for a hack. You could come in looking for both of them. In this situation, I would say you're coming in looking for both of them. You're coming in looking for hack and Reinhardt, and then looking to kill someone else.
So
Good.
for the,
Mhm,
I was going to
mhm,
say, so for the most part, um, during a fight, I'm going to want to focus on the easiest targets to kill.
mhm.
But outside the fight, I'm going to be looking to farm as efficiently as possible the EMP,
Yes,
right?
essentially yes. And then
Okay.
if you're close to your ultimate as well, that's another time where you can farm for your ultimate.
Okay.
Mhm. Now, here in this situation, trying to think, because Junkrat pressures us out a little.
¿Qué onda?
Yeah, this Junkrat is destroying me. I don't know how to deal with him. There is a point later in the match where I missed the chance to make a great play, but I didn't think of it
¿Extrañaste?
back
Yeah.
then.
One thing I would say is that we never attempt to duel him. Like, I haven't seen us attempt to, intentionally shoot at Junkrat.
Yeah, he
right?
he wa- he insta gived me on the first map on the other map.
Yeah. In which case, like in that instance, right? Never mind. I think we might have been looking. I'm trying to recall back to the situation. I wasn't actually sure remembering if we were looking at Junkrat or not. But that was the only time that we ever did try to duel him, right? We didn't try to duel him in that last fight when he pressured us out, right? So like, of course he's gonna pressure us out of a spot if we're not pressuring him back, right? Like if we're not
Okay.
trying to contest him back. So in that situation where Junkrat's coming, pushing at us, and we're full HP, then we can probably just look to push him back a little bit. Now, something else to consider that I have not seen us do yet is hacking health packs. Right, I've actually not seen us hack a health pack yet. Um, and that's actually pretty valuable because it gets you the health pack much faster. And for your whole team as well, and it
Hmm.
stops enemy team from being able to use it. And it's also going to, in terms of your hack, you're gonna. I believe that when you hack health pack, it's half the duration on the cooldown, right? So you instead of I think it's like 6 seconds, it takes you like 3 seconds or
I
something like that.
I think
Right?
I did hack the. I think I'm not sure, but I think the mega on our side is hacked. The
Oh yeah. I think you got this one. So I'm specifically so over here, right? So like if we hacked this
Yeah.
health pack, notice how that would probably drastically change our duel against the Junkrat, right? Because we can play off of this health pack and then we'd have a massive advantage against the Junkrat, right?
Okay.
So that's something to consider there is that we probably could be doing that. Now I'm also noticing sometimes we're not my 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Noticing sometimes we're also playing outside of range on Symmetra or sorry, on Sombra here. Whereas it's very important that we understand our ranges on
I'm
characters because
ready
we need to know
now.
how we play on them.
Sombra is
Sombra, good.
15 to 20 meters, right?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely your preferred range, but yeah, you have to keep in mind that like it
Here.
drops off very drastically. So this is the range in which we were shooting at that Junkrat, right? And look how much damage we're doing from back here, right? We're not even enough to finish him off, and that's not including the fact that he's moving target,
Pobrecito.
that he's going to
Hmm.
be getting heals, that that those are the big ones, right? So and that's also he's standing still, right? So we realistically, it looked more like this, right? Where we're taking 3 whole mags to finish him off, right? Which just is not very effective when we could be using that time to approach. So make sure that we're understanding your range because you have fall off and you have spread. Fall off meaning you
Okay.
do less
Oh,
damage at a range. Spread
pobrecito.
meaning that your shots are very spread out, which means that you're not hitting all of them. You're only hitting half of them, right? So in if that's the case, right, your preferred range is going to probably be within like this 10-meter mark, right? So notice this, right, how we melt them right there. 10 meters, pretty much do the same thing, right? Melt them pretty fast.
Time to
15,
hello.
okay, let's take a look. Okay, now it's a little bit slower, but we can still melt them fairly easily. 20, okay, still pretty good, right? We still do it with 35. So 20 meters plus is probably where we want to prefer to be, but you're still going to find the most value out of being up closer and closer because of those.
But not against Junkrat, right?
Yeah, so on Junkrat, you do want to put a little bit of
Oh,
distance because you don't want him to be able to melt
pobrecito.
you. But you still play decently close. So on a Junkrat, you maybe keep a distance like this-ish, right? Just because that makes it difficult for him to hit shots on you, but while still letting you do damage to him. But you wouldn't want to be like
Okay.
up here on him because up here on him would make it so that he can just one tap you. So in general, you also don't want to be too close because there are other characters that are better close range fighters than you, right? Think
Yeah.
Reaper, think McCree with a slash bang, right? Think May, right? There are other characters that do close range much better than you, so you do
Oh,
want to keep a little bit of
pobrecito.
distance. So hovering
Hmm.
like around, I'd say yeah, 10 to 15 meters, right, is maybe going to be your like preferred. 20
Hmm.
meters is going to be
So
like where you want to cap
what?
out at. Good.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed with Sombra is with every
How's that
I
looking?
well
I'm
I
ready to
stopped playing
heal.
for a while, but I
Can
used to
I?
think about these things like the range because
Oh,
with Sombra there is only
pobrecito.
one character that I think
Apagando las luces.
outperforms Sombra at every range in terms of
Double
damage
kill.
potential, which is Soldier. Other than that, there is always a range at
Beacon in
which
place.
gives me a decent
Been
fighting chance.
here all
Mm-hmm.
along.
Yep.
Double kill. Now arriving at Lijiang Tower. The objective is now.
Taking the. might need this later.
All right. Um. So let's talk about your. I apologize that we keep going in and out here. I think we're gonna maybe talk about like one more thing while we're out here at the training range. So let's talk about how you can place your translocators a little bit better. So when we're placing translocators, we're thinking kind of about two different things. We're thinking about speed and we're thinking about healing, right? So when we're getting out, we want it to be safe, of course. But we also want to be getting back to the fight as soon as possible. We want to be re-engaging as soon as possible, right? So in that last fight right there, we just placed a translocator where, yes, it's safe, and I guess that's another aspect, right? So safe, speed, and healing, right? Those are the three things we need a translocator to have. There we checked off safe, and we checked off healing because we checked it at a health pack, but we tossed it so far away from the fight that if we translocate back, that's taking us probably a good 10 seconds before we're re-engaging, right? In which case, that's almost equivalent to you being dead because of how long you're outside of that fight, right? So we want to make sure that when we are translocating out there, we're trying to get back into the fight as soon as possible. So we're thinking through all these different aspects. Safe usually is relatively simple. All we have to do is place it in a spot where they can't just break it easily and they can't kill us easily. So for example, like if we're on that point on Lijiang, we don't necessarily need to just put it we don't need to put it across the map. All we need to do is just put it around one of those outside alleyways, right? When we're outside of point and like where there's that little gap there where they can boop us off, right? That's probably just safe because it's around the corner and they can't really see us, which we'll get into in a moment. But like we could just, for example, put it on the stairs here, right? If the enemy team is down here, right, our team's like over here, something of that sort, right, we can just put it on the stairs here and that's completely safe because it's not very likely to get broken, right? We don't necessarily need to throw it across the map all the way over there, right, because this is safe enough. Now the other aspects we're thinking of is this is very, very fast. As soon as we come down here, we shoot, and then we translocate back, and rather than throwing it all the way over there, we're back to the fight to be able to do things instantly, right? We're able to have an impact instantly, right? Now, the third factor we have to think of is healing, because we, of course, if we are low and we teleport back, we are going to be low HP, in which case we need healing. So one thing you can do is place your translocator on health packs. That way you can just hack it real quick, place translocator on it, and then that just auto heals you pretty much when you teleport back, which I have not seen you doing as of yet. But that's of course not going to be applicable in all situations because sometimes health packs are obvious spots to have translocators on, as well as they can just be dangerous. And far away from the fight. So it depends on the situation. You kind of have to balance it out. But I've yet to see us trying it or doing it when maybe we've had some options to do so, to place it on health packs. In which case we just be back to the fight immediately. But as another option, right? If we're up here, for example. Right, like, let's see if we can figure this out. Right, maybe we can like place it somewhere like there. We can come over, we can shoot, we translocate back, and then we just request healing from our supports, and then that's another option for getting healing, is just putting it nearer to our team so that they can heal us up if it's not on a health pack, right? So those are the three things to think about. We want to make sure that we're not going to an extremity in any of them, right? Because if we go to the extremity of no healing, well, now we can't re-engage. If we go to the extremity of not safe, well, then we just either end up dying or our translocator gets broken. And then if we go to the extremity of I can't remember what the last one, speed, right? Then we're outside of the fight for so long, then it's as if we basically were dead for half of the fight, right? So we want to make sure that we're keeping all three of those aspects in mind while we're trying to place a translocator. As many of those boxes as possible you want to be checking off. Sometimes you can't check off all of them, right? But you're trying to check off, 2, 3, if possible, right? So if we go back to the map here, oh, never mind, I was going to talk about one more thing, right? So keep those three things in mind. We'll go back and we'll take a look at that. Now, additionally, I think we're going to talk about this very briefly. I don't think it's a major issue, but we'll make sure that we're getting the concept down so that we understand it. And then there are some times where we're messing up with it, of course, as I mess up with it still, even at GM, right? So here, this is just general positioning. Where should you be standing in general? If I'm standing right here, right, and the whole enemy team is looking at me and shooting at me, right, then it takes me 1, 2, 3 seconds to run around the corner, right? Now, Here we're safe, you cannot shoot through solid objects, we're good. But in that time it took us to walk around that corner, we end up dying, right? Because they all shoot at us and killed us. And therefore, that's no good. We died. But when we're right here, we can do largely the same amount of stuff, except for now we have cover we can use, and it takes us half a second to duck behind it, which means that we are much more survivable, right? It's 6 times faster than what it took us previously. Of half a second is much faster than 3 seconds, right? Which means that we have much more survivability, and then therefore good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 deaths that were caused by an absence of cover, and then besides that, just a lot of situations where we could have taken a lot less damage had we used cover. And there's a lot of different types of cover. We have slopes, like so. We have pillars we can use when we're reloading, when we're low, when we're taking damage. Right, you have pillars, or you have corners that do the exact same thing from enemies. You have random objects sitting around the map, like the payload. You have a pillar, corner, doorway, corner. It's all over the place. Okay. Now, additionally, high grounds all act as natural cover. Right, we can be up here, and they can see us. Now they can't. They can see us. No, they can't, right? So high grounds all act as natural cover, which gives us increased survivability. Additionally, on a high ground, most characters in the game can't reach you, right? So that means that 2/3 can actually get to you without using the stairs, and then the other third that can need to use abilities, which means that now they're out of abilities, which is another advantage in survivability. And then also on top of that, we have a ton of visibility. We can see over here, 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 and here, but we're on a low ground. We can't see over there, or any of the high grounds, right? So that's other things to consider just in terms of positioning, to keep in mind. A couple times where we've, fallen into some bad situations because
Now
of
arriving
a
at Li
poor
Jang,
positioning.
ready for battle.
Okay, so let's look at how we throw this here, right? So we probably, in this situation, okay, if we looked to place, if we toss translocate over here, right, this checks off safe, this checks off health pack, but we're also outside of the fight for so stinking long, right? Now, here, placing it on this health pack probably would be a little bit faster, still puts you out of the fight for a really long time. And in fact, actually, this is so far away, this would probably be more closer to like 15 seconds by the time you actually get back to over here, right? So this would just put you out for so long. Um, this health pack probably be a little bit better, but in fact, I probably say those health packs are just really far away from the fight. And in fact, like I probably say in general, one of the bigger priorities, like I probably say overhealing is the speed, because you can always make do with the health you have. You can always play safe and use cover and survive with low HP. But you can't always just instantly get back to the fight, right? So a lot of times speed is really important. So here, you could probably just place translocator just right here, go over and engage somewhere over here, and then you can just translocate back, be relatively safe, maybe rotate over here and get healing from your teammates if you need to, and just use these outside walls as cover. So that's just an option rather than throwing it across the map, right, which just would not be very good.
Taking the objective. A little help would be appreciated.
Okay, notice our first target that we're acquiring is a tank there. Now here right now, now there, notice that we hack the health pack, and then we place the translocator away from our health pack, which just means that we teleport back, and then we have to run all the way down to the health pack, right, to get it. And there's nobody really chasing us as of the moment. Maybe we assumed they would, but they're not. So we want to be aware of that fact. We also could have used that time to hack this health pack and then place it on that corner if we see that they're not really over here contesting us. All as different things that would be much more efficient to get us in there faster, doing things sooner, right? Additionally, this is currently, the fight is not happening. This hack is useless. Who's going to capitalize on this hack? Everybody's dead. Therefore, this is, if we're thinking about those engagements that we were talking about before, this is where we want to be charging our ult, because we're 75 and it's in between a fight. We want to be getting our ultimate so that we have it for this next fight. Hack, as of the moment, is pretty much useless, so we should just be coming in here and farming, right, as soon as possible. So that would mean, like, right now, right, we would be decloaking, we decloak a little bit late, so we decloak like half a second late. Then we also go for the hack, just all of which is unnecessary.
See you later.
Okay. notice how now the fight's actually beginning and we're just a mile away. So far, right? Additionally there, like if we wanted to, we could honestly even like place it on this health pack. We just have to be aware of their respawns so that they're not respawning and then we're just, you know, translocating back into them. Okay,
I'm securing the objective. Anyone want to join me?
here we need to be aware of the fact that we have our EMP, basically. We're at 95, yet we're not setting up for it. If we were setting up for the EMP, we would be getting much, much closer, because we can't EMP from here, right? Because we need to be in the middle of them, preferably. And if we know that we're 95 to it, and we're getting it, if we come over here, all we have to do, right, the plan should be translocate, or, invis, walk up right here, right? Shoot at Reinhardt for literally 2 seconds, or 1 second, and then EMP every single person, right? But instead we're coming out of invis on point and then shooting, and then now like they just kind of slowly back, and then we're pressured out, right? Keep in mind that your main primary goal is to be able to stay in the fight as long as possible so that we can shoot at things as long as possible. Your translocator out should preferably be a last resort, right? You don't want to have to translocate out because of how long you're staying out of the fight. So use cover. So for example, notice how far away we are from cover when we could be hugging this right wall. So Zarya starts shooting at us, boom, Zarya can't shoot at us, right? So utilizing cover here in this situation, right, would be helpful. Probably don't decloak there, rather walk up on them further, and then that means that we're actually not able to use EMP that fight.
My ultimate is ready. Group up with me.
Okay. Right now we want to be, we do not want to be here. We want to be like here because we want to be behind them where we're going to get the most value. This getting behind them gives us an off angle, allows us to shoot at them from behind, which gets us around shields and gets us around the tanks and lets us get to the back line. This makes it so that nobody's looking at us and nobody's shooting at us. They have a delayed reaction time. They don't have as much time to stun us and shoot at us and kill us if we're coming up from behind them. Overall, EMPing from here is a lot more valuable. We're not going to be able to go invis and just walk straight at them here, right? So here, like if we're trying to go in with an EMP, it's going to be so much more effective if we come from behind, and we just ran, we were behind them, and then we ran all the way out to the front of them.
This is where I missed the chance to make a good play.
Yeah, just notice that distance, right? Probably want to be getting a lot closer, because that's like
I did this because this way it didn't hear my audio cue.
Audio cue really isn't important when you're shooting at him literally 0.2 seconds later, right?
Yeah, but I didn't want, he was reacting fast, so I didn't want him to hear, so I could start to get shots in before that. And now I approach because he didn't hear the cue.
Definitely more important to be closer, right? You have to find a healthy balance between survivability and productivity, right? And that's a good point that you need to understand is that you could be the most survivable person in the game and be sitting in spawn and never accomplishing anything, right?
Yeah, true.
So you need to find a healthy balance between the two of being able to do things effectively while still staying alive. You can definitely be within range of Junkrat and still dodging his shots, going left to right here. And then if you had walked up right, you gotten a lot closer to him, you probably could have just headshot and hit him and melted him pretty easily.
I only thought about it afterwards, but here I should have stayed cloaked and get close to Junkrat, wait for him to tire and then decloak and translocate out because he would. I mean, I should have thrown translocator where I am or something like this. Gone up to him. When he tires, I decloak. He's going to explode instantly, and that translocate out.
Yeah, or you can kill him before he even finishes tiring, right?
Yeah, but he would. Oh yeah, true. The idea would be to waste his tire, which I didn't think of. I knew he had tire, but
yeah. So there, good kill on him, but also just missed opportunity being able to EMP probably just because we were so slow. I guess probably could have been set up for EMP, but not a big deal now. Okay. Okay, really good EMP. You got most people in that. You killed the Moira. Double hack the Lucio because he's gonna beat there. Oh, okay. So let's rewatch this a little bit. So here, I'd maybe double hack the Lucio because you don't want him. You see that he has beat. You don't want him to be able to use his beat here. So like right after we EMP, you can hack him a second time rather than trying to shoot, right? And then that keeps the duration on him longer. All right, so we're gonna
Just 2 seconds longer, right?
yeah. So it's yeah. If you hack it, then it's going to be. I believe they, if I'm not mistaken, they stack.
I don't think so.
Possibly.
I think it just refreshes the hack.
Yeah, that's possible. You might be true. Um, true there. Yeah, yeah. So I'm actually unfamiliar with that. That's
Always
been a
on the
while since
side.
I've seen that. So okay, so actually gonna leave here. And we're going to go over the main points of the session, do a quick review, and then wrap up from there.
Okay, okay.
All right. So let's real quick. We talked about Symmetra. We talked about Sombra. Sombra ability usage.
Everything can be
Cloak
hacked.
pretty
And
good.
everyone
You know, not too many issues with our cloak usage. Translocator. Think about those 3 criteria: safety, speed, and healing. All right. Usually speed is going to take a little bit of a priority over healing, but though you still want to be thinking about all 3 of those. Look for health to place them on health packs. Hack. Think about when it's needed and when it's not, right? You don't need it if you're just coming in for ult charge damage, and then also on top of that, look at health packs that you can use regularly. Besides that, overall ability usage on Sombra is probably like a low to medium, maybe a medium priority for you to work on. Then over on Symmetra,
the
make
true
sure that
enemy
we're
of an
replacing our
archer is the
turrets
sword.
to actually
Second to
utilize them in
blow.
the fight if they're out of position and not doing anything. TP is so much more value you could be getting out of it. With TP, you can be doing turret bombs, which we
We
actually
were
never
not
talked about,
meant
which
for
but maybe we
this.
can go over in the future because we have so many other
I can.
sessions.
I know how
Yeah.
to do them. Yeah.
Yep, so you have turret bombing's capabilities. You can use it to get out of grab. You can use it to just take different angles. You can use it to get to high grounds. You can just make sure we're
Mhm.
doing things with it as it can get a lot of value. And we didn't really utilize it.
Order is
We kind of held
restored.
on to it in a lot of situations. And then besides that, overall ability usage was like let's say like a medium priority for you to work on Symmetra. Okay, now ultimate usage on Sim, just probably could have placed it a little bit better. Just looking to angle it better. But overall, low to
We were
medium
not
priority for you to
meant
work
for
on.
this.
Sombra though, with your ultimate, make sure that
Everything can
we
be
are
hacked. And everyone
paying attention to like how many people are around us and if we even need EMP. In general, for across both ultimate usages, make sure we're not ulting in won or lost fights, just because that's gonna do nothing with it. And then make sure you're setting up for your EMP and getting ready to play for it whenever you do have it. Because just because it's a really powerful ultimate, we want to utilize it correctly. Overall, though,
I might need to
even
talk
on
to you
Sombra,
later.
it's probably got like a low to medium priority for you to work on, not super high on the list. Then moving on to mechanics. Mechanics for Sombra. We talked about target priority here, right? We making sure that you are shooting at the easiest things to kill, and then also think about like your different engages, right? So if you're in between fights or you're close to your ultimate, you come in and you look for the you look for spam damage, you look for ult charge damage, which means that you can go for the
Aw, it's
tanks. But in
always
any other
peaceful.
situation, you're probably going for the squishy targets, the easiest things to kill. Even among DPS and supports, there's easier and harder things to kill. So look to kill those things and focus on them. Not to say you never shoot at anything else, but you shoot at them when they're low, when they're out of position, when they're the only thing to shoot at, etc. Um, Now,
This
besides
wasn't your
that,
game.
over on Symmetra. Symmetra, definitely this is a much higher priority
The
because of
true
the left
enemy
click
of
versus
an
right click.
archer
That
is
was
the
very
sword.
important. Left click, prefer
Mhm.
your left click. Be within range of your left click, 13 meters. Make sure we're
No,
prioritizing that because it just does so much damage. You charge that up there and you're able to secure kills a lot easier. Right click, fully charge your shots. Don't just do this, right? Because it's not really doing very much when we do this, right? Or this. Right, we're not really accomplishing very much, right? Look how long this takes to kill them, and it's a lot less consistent than if we fully charge it, aim it out there, get a lot of damage in there, right?
everything can be.
Mhm.
Gonna be a lot more solid, open up for a lot more kill options, right? Now, and then overall, that puts in general the general mechanics probably goes at like a medium, but then for Symmetra, it goes to like a medium high for you to work on because of that. Um,
That was for your own
and then
good.
moving on, positioning. Make sure you're using cover. Make sure you're using high grounds. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure that like on the Sombra, we didn't talk a ton about it, but make sure we're looking to set up behind and to the side of them. Whereas I said, yeah, Sombra is what I meant to say. If I just said Symmetra, I usually mix those two up because they're confusing. Then just to say, then in any case, make sure you're setting up behind them. Like with the EMP in that last fight, we kind of came back to our team rather than setting up for it. Then let's see what else is there. Mm, in general, make sure we're keeping within our ranges, right? Sombra and Symmetra, we played a little far outside of our ranges, right? In certain situations, make sure we're trying to push forwards and get closer on both characters. Overall, positioning went to like a medium priority for you to work on. And then finally, awareness, paying attention to your environment, right? Watching your health bar, watching where is my team at, where is the enemy team at, what are they all doing, what's happening in kill feed, who's winning or losing the fight, right? We talked about that. 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage, 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight in kill feed. Right, additionally, just paying attention to just all the different things, audio awareness, we talked about the settings for that, right, so just making sure we're being aware of our surroundings and then not dying as a result. And then overall, that probably went to like a medium priority for you to work on. So, in general, put that in order real quick. Probably the biggest one was mechanics, especially for the Symmetra, but the outside of Symmetra probably wasn't as big of a one. So Symmetra, number one is mechanics, right?
Okay.
Besides that, number one probably goes to positioning, then awareness, then mechanics on the Sombra. Okay. Then after that comes your ability usage on Symmetra, and then on Sombra, it's probably around tied for your ability and your ultimate usage, right? So sorry that gets confusing when you're doing two different characters. So in general, Symmetra is higher on the ability usage, higher on the mechanics, and then the ultimate usage on both of them was around the even, right? So that was lowest on the list.
Okay,
Um,
we will be looking at them again. My
mhm,
idea is to like, um, like to
Double
have a coach that's going
triple kill.
to track my development
mhm,
throughout the time. I before I used to play when I used to play, I used to have a coach and he was very good. At least I liked the sessions, but I didn't see his advertisement on
Double
Fiverr
kill.
anymore. So
mhm.
Triple kill.
that's why I'm looking for a coach, and that's you
Okay.
now.
Mhm. Alrighty. So then, yeah, that's. Do you have any questions about anything we've talked about?
No, well, usually I feel my APM on Sombra is higher than this, but
Mhm.
today the games I recorded were well. It's not like I'm going to play much better, but
Double kill.
usually
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was on point today. It just
Mhm.
um, myself. I feel like when I'm playing for fun, like one, two, three games, and then take a break. I perform better than if I tell myself I have to play, I have to keep climbing and stuff.
Yeah. So if you did you see the criteria on over on Calendly? Did you see the criteria I put for replays?
Uh, no, it says.
No. Okay. So maybe that's probably something that we could that is important to take a look at. So over on Calendly where you schedule the session,
Yeah.
it shows criteria for the replays. So just to give you a verbal rundown of that, make sure
Okay.
that when you're going through and looking for replays, you want games where you played averagely, right? So that
Okay.
means that you don't want to pick games where you played poorly, pick games where you played extra good, right? You want to pick games where you played averagely. That way, we're looking at your average mistakes and whatnot.
Okay. So
Um, yep.
okay. I was just going to say that in
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's in these games that where I start to get crushed. I guess at some point.
Yeah. Are
That
these games
that
happening all the time though?
uh, sometimes sometimes they happen sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just I want to on these games where in my head I think I had no chance. I it feels like
We're
it's important to understand
so
what I had to do to have a chance.
working on your average mistakes are going to be the mistakes that you make all the time, right? When we work on the things that when we're working on your average gameplay, that means that we're working on the things that you're having a regular struggle with,
Yeah.
which means that that will overall increase your average gameplay, right? So in a game where
Okay.
you played extra poorly or just poorly in general, typically you can understand generally where you went wrong. So you could, for example, go back and look at that game and you said yourself, yeah, I could probably see that my actions per minute was low, right? I didn't do a ton. My uptime was down, right? So that you can usually self-identify that. So typically it's best to go over that average gameplay, because mistakes that you make when you're playing poorly aren't mistakes that you're making all the time. It's a lower percentage of the time. So we want to focus on the mistakes where you're making most of the
Okay.
time, and then that will increase your overall average gameplay, which will increase your SR.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So then
Well,
besides,
I think
go
this,
on.
this was helpful though, because these mistakes you're pointing out, um, maybe I don't make them as often when I'm on point,
Your
but
own mind.
I think those are big issues with my gameplay,
Mhm.
which do happen. So
Yeah, and we'll definitely see it next time too, right? We'll take more of a look. That'll give us more of an insight. Besides that, also make sure you're looking for close games, right? Where games where wasn't. I think that last game was pretty good, right? That it wasn't bad at all by any means,
Perfect
right? But you
alignment.
want to look for games where it's not a roll on either side by either team.
Mhm.
And then preferably a slight preference for a loss, but it's not very major. The other ones are more important.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I looked for this time, like
Mhm.
a game that wasn't extremely distant from one team from the other, and then in which I lost. That's why I
Mhm.
simply discussed.
All right. So then I'm